Hello and welcome. My name is Katie Hillary. I am the Chief of Staff at Insight Global. Really excited to have you all here today. Been with Insight Global for 13 years, and in my time with the company, I have done recruiting, sales. I have managed teams of consultants for my clients. I have managed internal teams of 7 direct reports, all the way up to organizations with over 100 people, ranging from legal, finance groups, more sales groups, and everything in between. And I'm here today to speak with you about the topic of what to do when an employee is doing just okay. Complacency is super tempting in this situation. Admittedly, I felt that as well. But you know that your team, your stakeholders, and yourself, you deserve better. Shoot, even that mediocre employee deserves better. So let's talk about this. As a leader and as a people manager, nothing is better than when every single person on your team is humming, is a high performer, is doing their best, and that's contagious, right? And on the flip side, although it's super frustrating and not a great situation, it's at least obvious when you have a stark underperformer, somebody who really degrades the quality of your team, and you know it's clear you've got to take action on that poor performer. But what's most difficult is that gray, that messy middle, confronting the person who isn't humming high, nor are they blatantly destructing the team. They're doing just okay. And I think that's one of the biggest tests the leader faces is how they address mediocrity. So let's talk about how to do that right. First and foremost, identify the root cause of their mediocrity. Some of the common things that I see are attitude, capabilities or lack of skill set, work ethic, simple reliability, showing up on time, but it can be a range of things, right? And first and foremost, you've got to name it. Once you've named it, schedule a one-on-one meeting with that employee and let them know exactly where they stand and what's getting in their way from being a solid, great teammate, and put them on a performance plan to identify what they need to do and how they need to commit to things in order to improve. At Insight Global, actually, one of our shared values, I love this one, is always know where you stand. And we live that value through with care and accountability. It's something that we view as a shared responsibility that both the individual have to embody. Hey, always know where you stand, individual. But also as their leader, it is our responsibility to make sure that our employees always know where they stand. And it's important that you have candor and that you're honest with one another when you have these conversations, and to consistently have always know where you stand meetings with individuals in our care. We also do this for our consultants on site at clients because they know sometimes that they need that extra push and that extra support for their consultants. And regardless, we host these meetings whether the person is doing great and pushing for a promotion. We want them to know where they stand against that promotion. And then we also host them with individuals, like in this case, where they aren't doing so well, where maybe they need a little bit more help and support, or they're underperforming completely. So when I think about this always know where you stand meeting, it really is the Swiss Army knife to perfectly address almost anything performance-wise, including mediocre employees. So, okay, what's the root cause? Is it attitude? If so, in that one-on-one, you name it, and you say, hey, we've got to fix it. Here's how we're going to fix it. Is it a lack of skills or capabilities? Okay. In this case, we have got to have a growth mindset. You can't be a victim just because you don't know how to do something isn't an excuse. We need you to embody that growth mindset. And if that person is on board, awesome. Direct them how to activate that growth mindset. They could shadow a top performer. They could engage in really targeted training. Somehow, some way, they need to take ownership of their development. So help them figure out the best course of action to do that and pick up those skills that they're lacking today. Also, work ethic. That's another one that we talked about. This one, just set really clear expectations on the work ethic that you expect. Point out people who embody this great work ethic on the team and create visibility for how they can meet those expectations. One kind of hybrid example that I have from a couple of years ago is I had this employee who was just quietly not cutting it, that gray, just okay employee. And he was consistently avoiding a specific task that the team was responsible for, constantly pushing it on his teammates. I said, okay, I've got to address this. I named what I thought the root cause was, in this case, lack of work ethic, pushing away the hard stuff. And I scheduled a one-on-one, always know where you stand meeting with him. And I gave him that feedback really directly, and we had an open conversation about it. He agreed. He said, yep, I know, I've been doing this. Thank you. Of course, there was a little bit of back and forth, but eventually we got to that place, and we started to create a game plan on how he would improve. And through the course of that game plan and conversation, I learned that he was avoiding the task because he didn't know how to do it, and he was too embarrassed to ask for help. So that lack of skills was being interpreted as a lack of work ethic, when really it should have been a hybrid of the two. But the root cause was a lack of capabilities. And in our one-on-one, we had identified that he needed accountability to learn. And that's not to say that I gave him a free pass. Instead, we formulated a really intentional performance plan that centered around a growth mindset and led to him being a team player, especially when the growth mindset required him to step outside of his comfort zone. And it was a screaming success. Can't say enough good things about that conversation and the hard work that he and I put in together to identify the root cause and put together a plan to improve upon that. So across all root causes, name it, communicate it really clearly to that employee, and communicate what the impact that root cause is having on their performance. In this case, being mediocre, being subpar. Then, this is really important, evaluate the performance often and consistently. Call out the poor habits early and acknowledge and reinforce good performance when you see it. Address those performance issues head on, and really do this intentionally with consistency, because at the end of the day, outside of not getting feedback to begin with, the second worst thing that you can do is to give them the feedback once and never follow up on it, never see how they respond to it, never reward them when they do rise to the occasion, or call them out when they get lazy and don't rise to the occasion. That candor warrants a response, and the response is going to be really indicative as to whether or not you want to keep this person on your team or not. The best part about this commitment to always know where you stand is that one of two things always happens when you do it. So I love that predictability. The first route, and the best route, is you light a fire of motivation under that person. You ignite this growth in the person who once coasted. They're happier, more fulfilled, you're happier, and your team is happier. Route number two, not as great, but hey, you flush out that this person is not great for your team, that they do not have interest in putting forth the effort that's required to grow, and you take action and remove them from your team. I abide by the adage that you become the average of the people you spend the most time with, and I think this especially goes for work settings. By allowing a mediocre employee to remain on your team in their mediocre state, you are going to erode the effectiveness, the morale, and the motivation of your top performers. Eliminating this mediocrity is important for that one person. Hopefully they emerge as the best version of themselves, but it's even more important for the team. Coincidentally, I'm reading a book called From Good to Great by Jim Collins. And one of the quotes in this book was so perfectly aligned with this message, so I had to work it into the content today. He said, the only way to deliver to the people who are achieving is to not burden them with the people who are not achieving. Perfect. Well said. Love that. That is so spot on for the message here. So in closing, I not only encourage you, but I urge you, take action now on the employee on your team who's performing just okay. By having a direct, candid conversation, clearly communicating their subpar performance and what is required of them to level up, you are giving them the opportunity and holding them accountable to rise to the occasion. And if they don't rise to the occasion, you're able to identify that person is not right for you and your rising team. That mediocre employee, he's going to produce less. He's going to innovate less. He or she is going to strive less. And your high-performing employees deserve better in their teammates. But more often than not, the best case scenario is the outcome. People want to excel. They don't just enjoy being incompetent. And by identifying why they're not performing to the best of their ability or to your expectations, you're setting them free, you're motivating, and you're teaching them how to do so. You have got this. I believe in you. Your team believes in you. Your team needs this. And I thank you for taking time to dive into this important topic today. Best of luck.